What was the moment that that triggered Astralis? What made you decide to do that? Because if you know the work that's required or that's like laying ahead of you, that it's going to be interesting, yes, but it's also a lot of work to actually go and commit to. And I know that you knew what you were getting into, so what triggered it?
I helped Dignitas team for it. It wasn't much, but I helped them a few hours here and there regarding the new contracts, because back then you swap team each year. So when they joined TSM back then, it was the best offer on the table, and we could have created our own as well. And that was sort of where the ID started. But it wasn't until 10 months something later they decided not to stay with TSM. It was not something that was planned. I mean, in October, the guys told us that, okay, unless TSM come up with a better offer, we're not staying here. Please go look for other offers as well. I then became their agent, and we received a lot of offers, from international organizations and already established brands, but new investors as well. And our own little ID, which is now become Astralis, was one of those on the table as well. In the end, we had 3 offers on the table. One was Astralis, and 2 were already, established brands and organizations. The players decided that, well, now we have tried being a part of, different organizations year after year after year. Let's try our own and see how that goes. But it was a close run between starting, our own thing and then joining something that was already out there, because it was quite established brands. In December we have secured the money, and January we launched everything. So it was 3 very hectic months while talking with everybody else, because I wanted to make sure that the players they had a real perspective of the different 3 offers. So I wasn't going to push Astralis ID down the throat of them. They could choose whatever they wanted to. And in the end, they chose to be a part of something, starting their own thing. It was challenging starting up then, definitely, but it's been a fun ride.
You started as a VC-funded team. It's not an easy thing to do, right? Like, starting a team requires that you go win some games before anyone cares that you exist on planet Earth. And after you've won those games, then you have to do all the business stuff. It took 11 months before you had the first win. So for 11 months, you had investors that had giving you money, and that every month you were capable of paying rents because of those people. How was those 11 months?
There was a lot of downs more than there were ups. Yeah, I think it was in August or September something, 8-9 months in, we are suddenly number 15 in the world, and it wasn't exactly going that well. We had to be top 8 at every major. The major in Cologne, we traded out the player just before then, and due to the major rules, we had to, we couldn't use Kirby, so we had to play with a stand-in. Peter Dupree, he got, he was really hurting, and we just thought, it's food poisoning or something like that. But as it turned out, we needed to send him to the hospital, and he had his appendix removed. That moment, and that was before, the last qualifying game to reach the playoffs. Danny, the coach, he had to step in as well to play. So we had a stand-in, and we had a coach playing instead of, the normal team. I mean, you can find videos of me in tears online, because that moment for me, when they succeeded qualifying, that was, it was so surreal, because we've spent so much time and so much, energy, and other people have spent a lot of money. So it was such a happy moment for us to actually pull through. And the playoff match didn't really matter at that point, because it was just, about being, legends again.
Some of the opportunities you guys saw of increasing your win rate, if you had made goals to win this event but not win this event, it changed playstyle. Could you tell me about the thinking behind that?
If you have the mentality of playing not to lose, then you're obviously going to lose. But if you also go into an event that I need to win every single event I attend, then you won't win as many as you hope, because that is simply just not possible. It's, it's such a tough competition out there. So the mentality was sort of, changed, and that is, again, what you're capable of and what you're not capable of. And we hired in a lot of people that help with performance part. And one of the things implemented was now back in winning ways, and winning 10 titles last year, and that was to set goals during a year. reachable goals, but realistic goals as well. So I want to win this tournament and I want to win this tournament. And then you use the other tournaments sort of as a training ground, a stepping stool, because then you're sure you will reach your potential at those events you aim to win. Then I would say unfortunately, perhaps other teams will say unfortunately, then all the other events Astralis attended, they ended up winning as well, right? Or at least 10 out of 17. So I guess that's a fine hit rate when it comes down to it. But it was more of a, having a realistic expectation and setting some goals of I want to win, I want to win the major. I want to win, Blast in Copenhagen. They didn't succeed with that, but then they won something else, right? So it's more of having a realistic, approach to what you want to achieve than just saying, I want to win everything or I play not to lose, because neither of those mindsets really help you.
Speaking of mindset and what makes you win, you've now had a chance to see teams from covering them as a writer, editor, to working in them, to founding one, to running as director of esports operations. You probably also dealt with all the teams that had anything to do with what happened at the Blast Pro Series. What are the things that you think teams should do more?
From a team, player, coach, we just attend what makes sense because we want to win as much prize money as we want. If you attend everything, you might attend 30 events. Your average placing might be, 5th to 8th, where you earn like 5,000. That's 150 in a year. But if you then just only aim at, I want to win, ESL Pro League season, whatever comes up, then it's, 250K. That one result is more into your own bank account than the 30 events you played. Teams, also because of the burnout rate, have to, watch out for not playing every single event out there. I know I'm really good at, administration and building and that, but the performance part, I'm not. I've never been a pro performer or, done anything like that. So when we had the chance to get people in that knew more on that subject than me, well, we took it. And that is also why we are doing better than a lot of other teams are right now.
You were started as one of the first organizations where the players were part of the ownership structure. Another team that were started with more or less the same efforts, who owned the majority of the company, was OT. They both had this in common, that they were started with a deep-rooted respect for the players and not for the management's pockets.
The player wanted to know, why do we attend a certain event, or why do we have to post on social media, why do we have to speak with the press and do these PR obligations. Being a part of and a co-owner of an organization which you have then an increased interest in, obviously that makes you more interesting in also hearing why those things are good for you. It helped us when we did it, that the player were, they were co-founders, they were co-owners, they still hold shares in Astralis. All these things, it's just easier to get players to do when they know it's actually what is that drives the organization, because they offer to look at the numbers. They know how when it's red and when it's black numbers, and they know what can increase those numbers, and also it secures the salary, right? And this was something new, as I said, a 2.0 of an organization.
What are some of the areas that went into Team Org 2.0? What did it roughly contain? Like, this must have been something that you sold to the investors too.
I mean, it's so low key. You can't believe how low key it was. Back then, it was just as simple as telling why we're doing this and what are we doing it for, and then just involving the players along the way as well, because they had part in swapping out the players throughout the year. They also had a part in, we hired a sports psychologist. They might not have liked it as much in the beginning as they do now, but it was still something that was a part of a conversation before it was something that happened. And that is just what I think sounds really stupid, but communication, it comes down to that.
If I had a rich uncle who would love to get into esports, and I wanted to make sure that he wastes his money, do you think, could someone go do Astralis today? Could someone go and start a new team, get some investment money, and then achieve a track record or success that would be even close to you guys?
it would require a team or an organization to go financially bankrupt. So you could have that during our next financial crisis, and then picking them up and then learning them, all the steps we took along the way. But even applying all that is not sure, you actually, achieve. And as Astralis, we have 5 highly dedicated players, but the whole refresh setup, the whole, performance team surrounding the players, that is something you need as well. Eating right, being healthy around the game and all that, combined with, the mental fortitude and then this change in, setting specific goals. I think a lot of what has been done as Astralis is something that other organizations can apply as well, that we set, a certain expectations and goals for ourselves, and we build a team up surrounding the team to help them perform even better.
I talked to a guy who makes one of the tools that you guys use to practice and train, prepare for games, and he said Astralis is the only team out of all the teams that use this tool where all the players use it, not just the coach, all the players.
That is to give credit to Danny, the coach. You can have players watch demos, or you can have, players, prepare a certain innate tactic on a map. But if you don't have the entire team actually working on improving or watching your opponent or learning what the specific opponent you're standing across is doing, then it's possible that, your coach or analyst have seen them do something, and then they give you a report or whatever and tell you, well, he's usually right there while you stand right there. And then, but when you're into a game and you play, that information that's way out of it. So I think that's something Danny, as far as I'm aware of, have repeatedly told them and asked them to do, that all of them are involved in the reports he make in the analytic tool, but then they actually also, all of them, they go into it and review it and watch, this specific opponent they're standing across. It's if you want to achieve something and you put the work into it, it's possible to do. And I think that's also one of the things that differentiates the Astralis players from a lot of the other teams, that they actually they do all the hard work, they do all the content, they do all the PR, but they also prepare for the next tournaments, prepare for the next opponent, and use time off when they are not at events to actually prepare new stuff and to rewatch old stuff and prepare again.